morning, ma'am.
Good morning, beta. Good morning. Okay. If you remember, in the last class, we learned about different types of rocks. Do you remember?
Yes, igneous rock.
Exactly. We learned about
Granite.
igneous rocks and we also learned about sedimentary rocks.
Ma'am, when are you gonna get our timetable?
You'll very soon get it. Christina ma'am will give it to you in your groups. Okay. So talking about igneous rocks, we were talking about igneous rocks are those rocks. Yeah, we were saying that igneous rocks are those rocks, okay, which are formed after the magma is cooled down. Okay, and therefore you can see those layers because the molten lava that comes out, it gets cool after some time. Okay. Do you remember this part? Yes. What is magma? Tell me what is magma?
The thing that flows out of the volcano.
Exactly. The molten rock can be called as magma. The molten and hot rock, okay, can be called as magma. Now, sedimentary rock also we learned about. We said that the rivers, they carry lot of sediments, leftovers, little small fragments of rock. And then there is a place where, all the sediments get collected there. And where it gets collected, the sedimentary rock begins to form there. This picture, if you remember, I told you. Okay, now this is the riverbed where we can say you have layers of sand, layers of the dead material, layers of dead plants and animals that come down there and they settle there. What happens is the older settlement then gets pressed by the new settlement. Okay, so older sediment, then pressure, then new sediment, then again more of sediment, and it is in this way we can say that the sedimentary rocks are formed. If you remember, I also spoke about the layers that contain fossils. Then we said they are porous. Do you understand what is porous?
Yeah.
Yes, Advait, what is to be porous?
I'm like that gaps in the grain
that absorbs liquid things like
exactly.
sponge.
Porous is the capacity to retain the water. Porous is the capacity to retain the the moisture. Okay, that is porous. Advait, you're not paying attention in my class.
Ma'am, I wasn't there when you teach
Last
this.
class you were not there when I did these rocks.
On Wednesday, right? Yeah, I wasn't there.
Okay. Okay. That is the reason you're like blank. Okay. Did we write down about igneous and sedimentary rocks? I don't think so.
Yes, we wrote.
We wrote about sedimentary also?
Yes.
Okay. Now we are moving to metamorphic rock, another type of rock. Okay. Rocks look so hard and strong that it is difficult to believe they could be squashed. Now, what is the meaning of squashed? That they can be broken. But rocks sometimes get buried by deep under the ground. Here it is very hot and the pressure is very high. The high temperature and the pressures change the rocks. They often squash the grains closer together. They make the rock harder. The rocks now have no gaps, so they are no longer porous. You understand what I speak? When can they be porous? When they can have the capacity to hold something, when there are gaps in between. Once the gaps are gone, they have been pressed. Okay, now you don't have any gaps inside. Will they be able to hold or retain water? Actually not. Okay, rocks that have been changed like this are called as metamorphic rocks. जो change हो जाते हैं. Okay, they are known as metamorphic rocks. Have you understood what I'm speaking, beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I repeat, what happens? Rocks, they look so hard and strong that it is not possible for us to believe that they also can be pressed or they also can be squashed. Sometimes what happens, the rocks, they get buried deep under the ground. And then you have a layer and a layer and a layer over it. Inside, under the ground, the situation there is very hot and there is a lot of pressure there. This high temperature and this lot of pressure changes the rock. Okay, the grains of the rock which were like firstly far off from each other have now been brought together, closed together. Now when these grains come close together, what happens? The spaces in between them, the gaps in between them is now not there. And because now there are no gaps, what happens? Now they are no longer porous also. That means they do not have the capacity to retain water. This changed type of rocks are known as metamorphic rocks. Is it very clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now see here, they have given you few examples. See, as you go deeper into the earth, the temperature and the pressure increases. In this gold mine, the miners can only work for few hours at a time. Why they can work only for few hours at a time? Tell me.
But
Because it's
the
super hot.
Yes, because of the high temperature and because of the pressure that is there inside. Okay. Now here, see in the other figure. Here they are saying you can see grains that do not fit perfectly together in this limestone. Now the grains, you can see the grains, but you can also understand that these grains have been compressed together. They have been pushed together towards each other. And therefore you can say they are not able to fit properly, perfectly into it. And then marble, it is a metamorphic rock. It is formed from limestone. It is hard and there is no pores in it. That means it is not porous. Got it? Now look at the sandstone. It is made up of sand grains. Gaps are very tiny. And quartzite is again a metamorphic rock which is formed from sandstone. So if in the exam they ask you examples of metamorphic rock, then what will you say? One is marble, the other is quartzite. Marble is made from limestone, quartzite is made from sandstone. Do you get me right?
Yes.
Okay. Limestone is an example of sedimentary, yes or no? Sandstone is also sedimentary. So when sedimentary rocks are changed, are transformed, then they get transformed into what? Metamorphic rocks. Do you understand what I speak?
Yes.
Give me two examples of sedimentary rocks.
Sandstone and limestone.
Okay. Two examples of metamorphic rocks. Marble and
Quartz
quartzite.
and marble.
Quartzite.
Give me the
Quartzite
origin of
and
quartzite.
metamorphic rock.
Origin, that means from where it is formed, from sandstone.
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 Give me origin of marble.
Granite.
No, no.
No.
From
Limestone.
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 Lime.
Are you all understanding what I'm trying to remove from you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay. Now, metamorphic rocks do not only form deep underground. जरूरी नहीं है सिर्फ high pressure, high temperature under the ground हो. They can also form when the hot lava flows close to the rock near the surface of the earth. The heat from the lava affects that particular rock and that rock changes. Rocks can also be changed when the earth's surface moves because of the tectonic plates. Are you aware of those tectonic plates?
Yes.
Yes. Now, at times, what
Yes.
happens because of the movement of the tectonic plates of the earth, two plates might overlap. There can be a gap also at times. Okay. Now, when they overlap, what happens of the rocks which is above? They also overlap. They also come together because of the pressure. Okay. They get compressed and they change. When they change, what will happen? Tell me. Metamorphic rocks will take place. Okay. Rocks can also be changed when the earth's surface moves. For example, in an earthquake, rocks may be pushed against each other. If this keeps on happening, they can be squashed, they can be folded, the grains in the rocks may be crushed, they can be forced very close to each other. Here you can see they have been brought together, pushed together into each other. They bump into each other. Okay. Is it very clear? Any doubts here?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, you can write these 2 points of summary, and along with this, I will give you an example also to write. Please write these 2 points. Now you have got 3 points. One is metamorphic rocks are formed when heat and pressure change the other rocks, and metamorphic rocks are usually harder than the other from which they are formed. That means if I ask you whether the sedimentary rocks are harder or the metamorphic rocks are harder, which one will you choose?
What, ma'am? Can you repeat?
Yeah, if I ask you,
Metamorphic.
yeah, if I ask you which one is harder, metamorphic is harder or sedimentary is harder, what will you say?
Metamorphic.
Metamorphic.
Yes, metamorphic are harder.
Done.
Very good.
Done.
क्या हो गया आयन? अद्वैत?
Ma'am, I was means my pen ran out of ink.
Okay, no
So
problem. Mohammed
brought
Kasu?
another one.
Mohammed is there in class or
Done,
not?
ma'am.
The first thing is your
Done, ma'am.
cameras. Everybody's cameras is a very big problem. And now I'm tired of telling you all to put it on. Seriously. You're supposed to put it on by yourself. Like how Advait does. I don't have to tell him.
I forgot my pen, that's why I had to run there
that's
and then
okay.
bring
For
it.
a
That's why my camera was off.
Yeah, for a moment or two, it's okay. I can understand. Maybe
And then I
somebody
forgot to
will
turn it
pass.
on.
Yeah, maybe somebody will pass from behind or maybe whatever. At that time, if you put it off, I can
No one
understand.
can pass from behind here.
Wow,
It's
that's
the wall.
nice. It's very good. Even I sit in such a place that nobody can pass from behind.
There is the door to go outside.
Okay.
Here, curtain. Here, wall.
Okay.
And
He's
two,
showing
two.
us his house.
I'm showing the place where I sit.
Good. Very good.
And I have one more sofa which is next to me, but that is completely filled with pillows.
Oh my God. Hmm.
3, 3.
So you can't sit there.
No one. No one will sit there then. So no one can even talk beside me.
Good. Very good. Is it done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can I clear the screen and go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Now we are moving towards weathering. Weathering of the rocks. What do you understand by the word weathering? Weathering of the rocks.
Like
Like how
the
rocks are,
rocks.
pardon?
Rocks are like
Okay. Like how rocks are formed, no? They also weather. They weather, that means the breaking of or fragmentation of the rocks or wear and tear of the rocks also happens. That is called as weathering. Is it understood? Okay. Like how rocks are formed, they come together to form. The same way, they also weather down, or we can say they break. They are broken into small, small fragments. Okay, rocks do not stay the same forever. They get worn away slowly. Now, the factors by which they get torn or worn out is the rain, wind, frost, temperature. Because of this, we can say that the rocks get weathered. When the rocks are worn away because of the rain, wind, frost, temperature, we call it to be the weathering of the rocks. Now there are different types of weathering that we will have to learn. First is the chemical weathering. Rainwater is acidic. When rainwater attacks the limestone, a chemical reaction takes place. Okay, and this chemical reaction leads to chemical weathering of the rock. Limestone is made up of calcium carbonate. When acid reacts, carbon dioxide gas is formed. Along with the carbon dioxide gas, water and salt is also produced. Carbon dioxide gets released in the air. Other products are washed away by the rain. Rain is a weak acid, so the reaction is only very slight. And that is the reason why we can say that the weathering of this particular rock or the chemical weathering takes long, long time. Do you understand what I speak? Yes. And why is Ayan smiling? What
Ma'am,
makes
the
him
way
smile?
you are talking, it's like I'm in junior KG.
Oh, so should I speak in the other way?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I should feel awkward.
No,
I
no.
should feel awkward.
Ayan should
Yes.
feel he's in college. I should talk like that.
No,
He
no,
should feel
not
he's in
that
college.
hard.
Okay. Okay.
What do you mean not that hard?
If you want college type, then ma'am will bring numbers and science.
Yeah, of course. Then
Zero.
I will directly talk, thinking that you understand everything I speak. So I will not go in detail and explain. Okay. Chalo, anyways, jokes apart, we are talking about chemical weathering, and we are saying chemical weathering happens because of chemical reactions. And these reactions are happening when the rainwater falls on those rocks. Like, for example, if we talk about limestone, Okay, rainwater will come on the limestone. Limestone is made up of calcium carbonate. Then what happens? There is a chemical reaction that takes place. In that chemical reaction, three things are produced. One is the carbon dioxide, second is water, and then is the salt. Okay, now carbon dioxide is released in the air, water and salt, they get washed away with the rainwater. Okay, and we have to also understand this, that because rainwater is not acid, entirely acid, it is a weak acid. Okay, so it will take a lot of time to wear off, or the rock to be worn off. It will take a lot of time, many years, you can say. Okay, this is known as chemical weathering. Have you understood this?
Yes.
Now see this. Can you see the figure here? This carved stone face is 500 years ago. What has happened to this face?
It got
Weathered,
melted, kind of.
melted. Yeah, it looks like melted, kind of. It can be because of the other, the other factors.
It
Okay.
looks like a skull, but his face got melted and all of his skin
The
came down.
features are not been clearly seen. It has all got worn off.
The skull
I only
came.
see his nose, but it's flat.
Now that was chemical weathering. Now we are moving towards the other type of weathering, and that is physical weathering. Physical weathering happens because of the physical conditions. Okay, water gets into the spaces and cracks into the rocks. Now what happens when the rocks are formed? There are some, spaces in between the rocks, or there are some gaps into the rocks. Water goes there and gets stored. Okay, now
Porous.
when it, yeah, because it is porous also. Now what happens is that water begins to freeze if it is very cold there. You should know one physical quality of water is that when it becomes ice, it expands. Do you know that?
What?
When water freezes, it expands.
Yes, yes.
Yes. When
Yes.
it becomes ice, it expands. Now the gap that was there in the rocks was not much. Okay, water went there, got stored there. Now in this gap inside, what is happening? Because it is very cold there, now it has turned, that water has turned to ice. Now do you tell me that this space which was just so much, will the ice be into this much place, or it will start making place?
It will start making place.
Yes, it will start making place. And when it starts making place, the cracks get developed into more deeper cracks. And what will happen if the cracks get larger and larger? One day, finally, it will break. This is called as physical weathering. Have you understood this? Okay. Water gets into spaces and cracks in the rocks. When this water freezes, it expands. This makes the cracks larger. When the water melts, the larger cracks are left. Now what happens? Now once the temperature is now normal, and now the ice has got melted into water. Okay, water is going to drain away. From the rock, it is going to come down into the rivers and the river beds. Okay, now but tell me, this time, will the crack remain as much as it was before the ice was formed there? No, the crack has now become larger, and every time water will be stored there, it will make a deeper and a larger crack. And one fine day, what will happen? When this happens many times, the rocks are broken. And this is the example of physical weathering, which you can see in the figure they have showed you. The water inside the cracks have freezed and expand. When the temperature rises, the ice melts and bits of rocks, can you see here? Bits of rock fall off.
Yes.
Yes, whenever you might have traveled by road onto the hilly regions, okay, there is always a risk that, some piece of rock might just come.
Landslides happen.
Exactly. Or even rocks do fall. So it is very, very risky. You might see that, on the ghats, whenever you travel in the ghats, what happens? There is traffic jam at times. Why? Because maybe, something has fallen down to pick it up. We will have to wait for them to clear the road or whatever. So this happens mostly there. Have you understood? Chemical weathering, physical weathering, any doubt, any question?
No, ma'am. No.
Okay. Okay. Now, when we talk about physical weathering, it is not only the water, not only the rain that will expand the cracks. Okay. The heat of the sun can also make the rocks expand. We know that when it is cool, it expands. When it is hot, also it expands. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yes.
now the heat of the sun can make the rocks expand. At night, the temperature will fall, the rock will contract. Now, what is happening? It is getting expanded and then contracted, expanded and contracted. With this continuous expansion and contraction, they start developing cracks. And then these cracks get deeper and then the rock breaks. Is it very clear? At the night, the temperature falls, the rock contracts. When this happens over and over again, the rock can crack. Wind and running water can wear away the rocks. Rocks are made smooth by water running over them. Like for example, if you have a waterfall from some place, okay, in between the rocks, you will see wherever the water is falling, no, the rocks will get the shape will change. It will make it sway. The water will make it sway. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
The hard part of the rock, because of the continuous flow of water, also you can see that hard rock will turn into a soft, not a soft one, a smooth one. Okay, it's slippery to move into that area where there is a waterfall. Yes or no? Because the rocks have become smooth there. Are you understanding? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. This was about the physical weathering. Now we are moving towards another type of weathering, and that is biotic weathering. Now what happens is living organisms also cause the rocks to weather. Okay. And when living organisms are involved, we call it a biotic process. Living organisms can cause rocks to break apart. This is called as biotic weathering. Now what is actually happening is plants grow into the cracks of the rocks. Okay. Now there was a crack.
Yes.
Plant will start growing there. Plant wants its space. So it goes on splitting the rock.
Because of the fungus.
Yes. Okay. It goes on splitting the crack. The crack becomes wider and wider, and one day the rock will fall apart. Is it very clear? See here you can see.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I actually there is actual plant growing like in the rocks, and ma'am, it has so many cracks around it.
Okay. Plants grow in the cracks in the rocks. The growth of the plant roots cause the cracks and damage the rocks. Now this figure that you can see is, you can see a rock has, got separated from each other because of the river that is flowing into them. The river has worn away the rock. This is one example. And the other example is, you can see a tree that is growing into the limestone and it is actually splitting the rock. The rock is made into two parts. Clear?
Yes.
Now this summary I want you to write down.
Done.
That's nice.
Done.
Done, ma'am.
Good, beta. Everyone is done? Tabish,
Yes.
is it done, Shamila?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So then I'll do one thing. I will end the lecture for today here. And
We will do
continue.
one thing. We will end the class.
Yes, we will do one thing. We will end the class. Okay. Bye-bye. See you all tomorrow.
I'm going to make my resume.
Bye, ma'am.
Everyone else